Today we're going to talk about how to Excel without using Excel. So why do we use Excel? Well, it turns out Excel is actually really useful for data science. It's a tool that allows you to wrangle your data, visualize your data, transform it, analyze it, and communicate insights about your data. We really need a book about Excel for data science. It's a universal tool for communicating. Even those who are scared about numbers use Excel. It's amazing to see how people bend Excel to their will. The most complex algorithm by far is the sprawling Excel spreadsheet built up over 20 years by a church group in Nebraska to coordinate their scheduling. But there are a few problems with Excel. Dilbert points out there's really only three: your data, your format, and your formulas. I would add at least three more: maintenance, security, and collaboration. So I want to show an example of an Excel tool that I built years ago that allows people to explore their data in Excel. So this tool takes some user inputs. You can drill down on this report and see where customer behavior is coming from. Revenue is a function of customers, visits, items, and prices, and you can figure out why revenue is going up and down depending on the segment in the group that you're looking at. This tool was built by pulling data from MicroStrategy into a pre-period and a post-period, then organizing them in one large sheet, and then setting the inputs into another sheet. There was actually some VBA code at some point that went into organizing this spreadsheet, and finally a lot of design that had to go around just presenting the results correctly. This sheet took weeks to build and even more time to maintain. So this was designed to go out every week to a large group, which meant that I had to update this by hand. I had to spot check the inputs, and then I had to send a mass email to everyone with this very large attachment assigned to it in a huge workbook. So the problems here was that it was cumbersome to maintain, there were no security controls, and it was impossible to guarantee the integrity of my data. So I want to say that again. It was impossible for me to guarantee the integrity of my data. That's a big problem for a data scientist. But even as big as that problem was, personally, there was an even more pernicious problem. I was using the wrong tool. Instead of using ETL, I was using Excel. Instead of using scripting, I was using Excel formulas. Instead of using a popular programming language, I was using VBA. And instead of using advanced modeling techniques, I was relegated to the formulas that were native to Excel. There really is a better way. So this example reminded me of the scene in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation where Clark Griswold jumps the family truckster 50 yards, and Rusty says, "Wow, you must have jumped that like by 50 yards, Dad." And Clark says, "That's nothing to be proud of, Rusty," but inside he was secretly proud of it the whole time. This family truckster represents my Excel spreadsheet. It's not something, at the time I was proud of it, it's not something I'm proud of any longer. So what I really wish I had known back then was that there was this ability to do reproducible code. Actually, in my case, my example was done before a lot of these tools were available, but reproducible code allows you to create work that's maintainable, that allows you to collaborate and debug and validate your work. Excel workbooks are not reproducible, and a clear example of that is your formula bar in Excel that gets out of control. This formula is a mess, and it's ripe for errors to be found and persist throughout your work and everyone else who touches this workbook. So instead of using Excel here, I want to talk about communicating results with Shiny and R Markdown. If you're not familiar with Shiny, Shiny is a web environment for R, and R Markdown allows you to do reproducible reports in R. And I'm going to be using RStudio Connect heavily here. RStudio Connect is a publishing platform for all of the work that your team creates in R. Okay, so here I am in RStudio Server Pro, and I'm built a Shiny application that replaces my Excel application. And here you can see some of the formulas are written out in R code. It's fairly easy to read, and this application only took me a couple of hours to compile. To write. I was amazed at how much easier it was to write a Shiny application than it was to construct a complex Excel worksheet. This is what that application looks like when it's published to RStudio Connect. I still have the same user inputs. I can go in and check these out, and I can see my data here, and I can do any drill down that I want. And when I'm done, I can actually come down and download the Excel spreadsheet if I'd like. So the R code allows me to spit out an Excel spreadsheet of the snapshot that I'm looking at. The only problem with the Shiny application, and this is a great use of Shiny, is that the visitors have to come to this application to get the information they want. And a lot of times you're going to want to push that information to someone else. You'll want to create a snapshot and send an email to let them know what's happening. And if that's the situation you're in, then what you really want is a report. So reports are done in R Markdown, and this is an example of a parameterized R Markdown document. R Markdown documents have narrative, code, and then output in the same document. It's a form of literate programming. And this one's parameterized. If you've never parameterized an R Markdown document, this is an example of how you would parameterize all of the inputs. And let me show you what that looks like when I publish it to RStudio Connect. This is the report in RStudio Connect. You can take any input that you want. Here are the defaults. If you come over here, you can select whatever you'd like to run. And then you hit the Run button. I'm not going to do that right now. I've already done it for us. Once I've generated that report with those user inputs, I can go ahead and email that report to myself. And while that's going through the internet, I can come up here and schedule this report to run on a regular basis. And even after that report runs, I can send an email for that report to everybody that's on my distribution list. So the email that comes across here looks something like this. I have some highlights here. I have a nice body that shows exactly what's happening to this data set. And down here at the bottom, I have an Excel attachment. So I can attach the Excel report to my email. And so users can say, okay, this is exactly what I need to look at. I can customize this and adjust this or dig deeper into this if I'd like. I included all the data here. I could build a pivot table on top of this if I wanted to. It's really up to the recipient to decide how they want to use that data once it's been delivered to them. So how do you Excel without using Excel? Well, you do what the cavemen do. You look at what Zog do. In other words, Zog here has figured out that there's a better way of cooking his meat. And I'm arguing that there's a better way of using Excel. Instead of doing all of your work in Excel, use the powerful coding tools that make your work reproducible. There are programming language, packages like the Tidyverse, the RStudio IDE, and RStudio Connect, Git, and other, and version control. These are the tools that are really valuable in your work. And then you can communicate all of this insight and investigation with Shiny applications and R Markdown documents that are also reproducible. But you say, Excel is unavoidable. Well, that's okay. This talk is not how to excel, is how to excel, not how to pretend that Excel does not exist. So we know we live in a world with Excel. We know that Excel is everywhere. We know that there are people that we work with who will only understand things in Excel. That's okay. You can still use Excel. You should use Excel to communicate static worksheets, like we saw with the tracker snapshots, and then you should use Shiny and R Markdown for complex calculators. And I think that's a great combination for a data scientist to do all the heavy lifting in Shiny and R Markdown in the R programming language, and then use Excel to communicate static information. So in data science, the source for all your results is ultimately your code. It is not your report or your presentation. You want to spend more time coding and less time managing your apps, reports, and presentations, because your code is the value that you're bringing to that organization. So finally, I just want to mention that we've been talking a lot about Excel, but what if I wanted to also code up my presentations? Wouldn't it be nice if you could render PowerPoint documents from R Markdown? Well, yes. Yes, it would, and in fact, you can. So in the upcoming version of RStudio version 1.2, you're able to create PowerPoint presentations from R Markdown. Here's an example of a PowerPoint presentation. It looks just like the R Markdown code I wrote up before, except now it's in slide format, and it uses the PowerPoint presentation output. And when I publish it to RStudio Connect, it looks like this. There's not much to see here, just a download button. You can download the presentation if you'd like, or you can come in here and you can code up whatever set of inputs that you want. I've already done one for us, and you can create a schedule for that and email this out on a regular schedule. Let me show you what it looks like if I just email myself a copy. This is going to send the report to my inbox. So here's the email again, gives me the report, and down here I still have the Excel spreadsheet that I can use to open things up, but now I have a PowerPoint presentation. And this PowerPoint presentation contains an overview of the work I did for the segment and group that I chose. And in this slide, I have a drill down, I have a report that says, use this Shiny app to explore other segments and groups. So if you want to explore other segments and groups, I included a snapshot of the Shiny application in my presentation that will take me back to my application. So I'm going to click on this image, and it should take me back to the presentation, or back to the application. So I can click on that image, and it comes back to the Shiny application. I can do more digging if I'd like. And when I'm done with this, I can download the exact snapshot that I want to look at, and I've come full circle. So I've been able to create PowerPoint presentations, Excel presentations, and a Shiny application all in the same code base, and it's all being managed by R and RStudio and RStudio Connect. So if you want to learn more about publishing results with R Markdown and Shiny, there's a lot of great references on that. R Views is a blog that we publish to on a regular basis. It's our community blog. There's R for Data Science. Part 5 has an excellent chapter about communication. And then there's a number of demos here that are associated with this presentation, including the code, which is all stored in GitHub. You can check that out, and I hope you get a chance to look at that. So thank you very much.